Yes, my people, I'm taking you back to 1991, where I just begun. 1991, I was in the army, came out and started to do some shows with my best friend Marvin D, which was a Dutch hip hop artist, and he was doing shows all around Europe. So I was like his dancer. But then at one show in Germany, I grabbed the mic because there was a mic laying there, and I started to rap. So he looked like a little bit surprised. He didn't know that I could rap too. Then we went to Malta for a big show. From this moment, I was his sidekick, so I was rapping with him, no longer dancing. Yeah, we had a great show. And as soon as we came off stage, there were so many fans there, and people were asking me for autographs. I was just a sidekick, I was not a big artist. The next day, because he was managed by a company called CBA Artists, and the next day the guy knocked on my door, and he said, "Yo, Ray, Raymond, that's my real name." And he said, "You're on the front cover of the Maltese Telegraph." And it was only a picture of myself. I was the artist. So, they thought like this guy, he got something. So they told me about a project for some Belgian producer, Jean-Paul de Koster, who was number 7 in the UK charts with a project called Business. And they were trying to find a rapper for the following up single. At that point, I was working at Amsterdam Schiphol at a restaurant because I studied to be a cook. So that was my profession. So, I agreed to do the rap. They paid me 650 guilders, which is about like 300 euro. The rap was already written, so I drove with his manager all the way to Belgium to the studio of Jean-Paul de Coster and Philip de Wilde. Went into the vocal booth, I had the rap there, and it was like half an hour I recorded everything. So it was easy money for me. Then Jean-Paul de Coster, he had a record store, so there was a lot of records laying around, and he had a big stack of records. And then, I was just going through the records, and I always say like God pushed me to pick up this record. So I took one record out, checked it out, and it said 2Unlimited, get ready for this. It was a white label. So I asked Sean Paul, "Yo, what is this record?" So yeah, it's like a underground track that we released in the clubs and see what it does. And that time I was really into hip hop music. I had nothing with house music or something like this. Because artists like Run DMC, Public Enemy, L Cool J, those were the people that I was listening to. But when I heard this track, "Y'all ready for this?" Da, 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 it catches me, just straight away. It was like, it catch my attention. It was like, what? This record is kind of, yeah, it's dope. So, I never wrote anything in my life. So I told Sean Paul, if you ever need a rap for it, I'll write it for you. I was a little bit bluffing and I thought I will never hear nothing anymore. And then like a week later, I got a tape at my father's house and with a little note like, "Yeah, can you write a rap on this song?" And it was "Get ready for this." So straight away I was so excited and I just started to write. Again, it felt like God hold my hand because I never written anything before. But I wrote the rap so easy. Get down with the sound, house on the ground, freeze when I squeeze, drop to your knees. Bump. So in an hour I had the whole rap finished. It was 3 parts. And I went to my father and I rapped it for him. I was so excited. But then I was thinking like we need something else on the track. And then I started to write again because I was feeling that it should be a female vocal on it. So I went back to my room and started to write a female part. And it was like, "Be a part, break my heart, get ready for this, and mind your own biz." I wrote it just like that. So, then we sent the rap back to the management, written, I didn't record it yet. And I said, I also wrote a girl part. So once Jean Paul in Belgium received it, he said, "Yeah, okay, who's gonna sing the hook?" And Marvin, who was in the music industry already for years, and he knew, of course, a lot of singers. Yeah, so I hooked up with Marvin and said, "Yo, I need a singer because I wrote something and I need a female chorus on it." And because he was working in music already for a long time and he worked with several artists, that was the person for me to check out a singer. And he said, "Yeah, I know this girl. Her name is Anita, and she's singing. She got a good voice, and she looked good." And so I was like, "I think I know this girl." I wasn't sure. So, to move forward a little bit quick, finally we're supposed to meet each other in Amsterdam at the Bulldog coffee shop, and we met, and we had a little conversation, and I knew her because I saw her face, and I knew her from the clubs when I went out and party. And she was also always at the same clubs. So I said, "Yeah, no, I wrote this record, and, I'm rapping on it, and I need somebody to sing on it." And, I sang how I wrote the chorus. I said she was happy about it. It was like, oh yeah, we clicked straight away. It was a good vibe. And then we scheduled a studio session with the Rachende Mannen, which is a Dutch group. Yeah, so we went to the studio and we recorded the track. You know, we sent the tape back, went to the management sent it to Belgium to producer. But little did we know, the track was already, that time was signed by Pete Waterman from one of the biggest labels in the UK, PWL, who had artists like Rick Ashley, Kylie Minogue, and many great artists. They signed the instrumental track because they heard it in the clubs. And before we knew it, we had a deal. Well, Jean-Paul had a deal, and it came straight into #2 in the UK charts. I was still working in the kitchen. Anita was working at the police doing administration, and it went really fast. So the management said, okay, Jean-Paul want to meet Anita also, and let's sit together and let's make a contract. And I was like, contract? Wow, that was crazy. So yeah, we signed a contract. You know, they were asking me, okay, how are you going to share everything? And for me, I was not in it for the money or fame. So I said, okay, we're going to do it together, because it started like a rapper with a backing vocalist. But for me, it was like, you know, if you're going to do this, we're going to do it together. So we're going to do 50-50. My cousin, who was in the music industry, came to the meeting. He said, no, don't do it. You know, because he said, like, yeah, she's just a backing vocalist. But, you know, honest as I am, and, you know, just, it was a good vibe. So I said, okay, we do 50-50. We signed the contract. Before we knew it, we were doing Top of the Pops in the UK. I was still working in the kitchen. She was still working. And then suddenly we had to do 5 shows in Scotland at big raves. We only had this song, Get Ready for This, and it was like a demo track. And we did 5 shows in one night. So only performing those 2 tracks. But by the time we came in the first rave, it was like a big rave, 8,000 people. I remember the Prodigy was there, 808 State, and the Shaman, big names that time already, established names. And we didn't practice, you know, we didn't even talk about how we're gonna perform. So we came from the back in this big rave, so backstage, and we looked to the curtain, and it was like 8,000 people there. And then they started to announce, Glasgow, are you ready for one of the biggest groups from the UK? And we just started, but because we were #2 in the charts, we were already an established name. 2Unlimited was, they didn't know about us. So we went on stage, you know, all these people like cheering and screaming. I had the mic, Anita had the mic, we looked at each other, and for a moment I was thinking what I'm gonna do, and I said, yo, Glasgow, are you ready to party? We came all the way from Amsterdam, this is 2Unlimited. And the whole crowd went wild, and yeah, there was a kick over the first shows, and then we did 4 shows in a row in one night. And then because it got so out of hand that we already #2 in the UK, and Japan came, Australia, other countries, even Holland. So all these countries were really pumping this song. Yeah, and then it was serious. And then I didn't want to work in the kitchen because I saw this opportunity, yeah, to do shows. Because, you know, I felt it with the first moment I did the thing on stage. It felt like this is what I want to do. Yeah, and then it just went. I couldn't get free, so I quit my job, and I called Anita. I said, you know, I just quit my job. Yeah, what should I do? She said, yeah, well, let's go for it. I had my papers to be a cook, so I could basically work in any restaurant at that moment. So, you know, my father said, you know, go for it. I quit my job. Anita quit a job. Yeah, and then we started to do shows. Yeah, that's how it went.